So you have to have clinicians that come in that are good teachers, not just great athletes. Some athletes are freaking great athletically, competitively, but they're not good teachers. It's not a one-off event. Do I make money or not? You have to look at it as a portfolio of events that will help you grow the gym or not grow the gym. But then I've also had seminarians or clinicians who aren't as well known competitively, but they were just great teachers. Hello, welcome back to the Shintaro Higashi Show with Peter Yu. A solo episode today about seminar economics. Now, I used to sort of have a thing about seminars, and I kind of went through the whole rigmarole of like, what should I charge for the seminar? What should I teach it? How should I do it? And then on the dojo owner side, how do I host certain clinicians and such? And, this podcast episode is basically going to be about that. So, I sort of started entering into the seminar game again. I used to do a little bit more as like sort of a competitor because I really needed the money. And some gyms would give me a flat fee. I've done seminars for as little as $500 for an hour. I've done seminars for $1,000 for like a 1 hour segment as part of like a training camp. I've done, $2,500 a session. I've done 50-50 splits where nobody came and I made no money. I've done 50-50 splits where tons of people came and I made a lot more money. Who knows? And there's all these different ways you can kind of sort of position yourself from a pricing standpoint. And, pricing strategy is a big thing in, all of business. So it's good to kind of understand, what your value is first and foremost. Understanding what other clinicians are charging out there, etc., etc. So let's talk first about flat fee versus percentage, and then the combination of both of those things. I've seen both. You can do, hey, my flat fee is $3,000 for the session, right? And that's what I do now most of the time. It's $3,000, 2 hours. I'll go teach anything and everything that you want. I will most likely gauge the room first to see what the skill level is, and then teach from beginning to end where everyone's moving. I don't usually do randori with the people. That's kind of my thing, right? If it's closer, I'll do it a little bit cheaper. If it's farther away, and if I can get 2 or 3 gyms together, then they have to all split the cost of my flight, my hotel, etc., etc. And then maybe if I could chain 2 or 3 gyms back to back, in the course of 2 or 3 days, then I could kind of reduce the cost too. So some people were like, hey man, can you do a seminar at my gym? Sure, my rate is $3,000. Hey, can I get you 2 other gyms in the area? Can I do it for $2,000? I'll say sure, right? So these are the kind of ways. That's sort of the flat fee structure. I've had guys say to me, hey man, can you do a 50-50 split? Which is generally not favorable. A lot of guys don't usually take on this, just a plain old 50-50 split, because if that gym doesn't market for you, then you're just not going to have anything, right? It's going to just be very low split. I've done this before. They brought, $800 in at the door. They charged very little, and now we're splitting $800. And there's $400, and I flew all the way there. Not really worth the time. I'm not saying it's not worth the time, but you go all the way there. You want to teach as many people as possible. You want it to be worth your time because there's an opportunity cost of leaving your home to not work to work over there for the weekend, right? So the 50-50 split generally doesn't work for most people. I've heard people say, hey, I charge a 70-30 split. So, I get the majority of the money. The gym makes money. It's in the gym's best interest also to push this thing. And if you have a big following, you could also push it through your side, and you could talk with the other gyms and say, hey, give me the link to Eventbrite or whatever it is, and I'll make sure that I post it on my schedule, on my Instagram. So now I'm also going to promote it as you are too. So now we're both going to have a lot more because we're going to both put marketing muscle behind it, etc., etc. So that could potentially work. I've seen splits like 70-30, 60-40, etc., etc. Now, the combination of both is a nice idea, too. They say, hey, I want to be guaranteed $1,000 at the door, and then whatever that after that's paid, whatever that comes in above that, we're going to split that. So it's 50-50 split after the flat fee. I've seen that work wonders, too. I've done, there's just so many different leverage points where you kind of like go back and forth, So that's sort of the way that clinicians are kind of asking for the money, I generally like the flat fee, like I said. If there's someone that can coordinate all the gyms in the area, like the one in Netherlands, I have a guy, Norman, who's doing all of it. I'm going to give him 15%, right, of all the revenue that comes in. So now, the gym has a flat fee, and now there's one person organizing all this stuff, and he gets 15% on the top. It's kind of like the Airbnb co-host model. That's also a nice thing too. Okay, so now I'm looking at it from a gym owner's standpoint. When I run seminars at my gym, that's not me. Okay, obviously my guys are sick and tired of me ranting about Tatoshi. Sometimes they want a fresh perspective. Sometimes they want a young champion to come into the room. Okay, how do I get those guys in the room? Sometimes, if a clinician's asking for $3,000, $4,000, I know my gym. I know who's willing to pay for what. My gym is not full of fanboys. So when those guys see sort of a jiu-jitsu champion or whatever it is, they're not going to fanboy and go nuts and pay $100 to see that person. They're just simply not. It's not in the culture. Even if I got an Olympian from another country to come, it's not going to really create big waves and vibes because they're just not. So you got to know your clientele. You know what I mean? But there's some gyms that are just diehard fanatics, and every single one of them is bought into the community, the culture, the people that are at the top. And it may be worth to pay that $3,000-$4,000 for that clinician to have an association to make your athletes happy. And then if you're coming from a gym sort of in the middle of nowhere, you don't have a lot of champions, maybe you yourself as the owner of the gym is not a champion also. Maybe you didn't compete a lot. That's not to say that you're not a good coach. You can be a freaking great coach, right? A lot of best coaches that I know weren't competitors at all. So in those cases, it may help the gym to have an association. Oh man, Shintaro was here. Oh man, this guy was here. Oh man, we're going to get an Olympic champion. Oh man, we're going to get the ADCC champ over here and do a seminar. So now all of a sudden, that $3,000 or $4,000 that you're shelling out to these guys, it's a marketing expense. Right? You're not trying to make a margin on it. You're not trying to say I'm spending $3,000. I'm charging $100 at the door per student. I'm trying to get 50 guys in there. This guy makes 3 Gs. I make 2 Gs. Now you're not really thinking of it that way. You're thinking of it a marketing expense. Like, look at the gym. All these champions are walking through the door. And now look, I'm friends with them. And this is the thing. If you host somebody for a session for 2 hours and you give them $4,000, that guy is going to be pretty friendly and likable to you. They're not going to be shitting on you or your competition record. You develop a friendship and a relationship, a working business partnership there. Hey, will you come back every 6 months? Hey, man, we'd love to have you again. The guys get to take pictures with you. We get to put it on Instagram, and then, if you're doing if you get JT Torres in the room and you pay him for a seminar, he's going to take pictures with you. He's going to repost your thing. You get a little bit of clout. It puts your gym out there. You know what I mean? So that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is getting a seminar person that sort of resonates with your people. For instance, I'm getting Megumi Ishikawa, who lives in Chicago now, to come to a seminar at my gym. And that's going to really resonate with my female athletes in the room. Because I'm really trying to build the women's program. It's very difficult because it's majority dudes. People call in to do judo. 97% of the time, they're dudes calling in to do judo. Okay? I saw your YouTube, bro. I do jiu-jitsu already. I want to learn some stand-up. 97% of the time, it's dudes. So, as you can imagine, it's very hard to keep the women because it's just such a male-dominant industry. Not male-dominant. I don't mean like that. Just population-wise. You know what I mean? So, Megumi Ishikawa does seminars, lives in Chicago, from Japan originally, was a champ, Asian champ. I think that's going to be great for my women athletes. I think it would be great for them to see, So that's a reason why I did it. It's not really much so like, oh, let me take a margin on this freaking thing. Not really like that, But with that being said, I can't just be throwing money away on marketing, not throwing away money. I'm saying keep spending on the marketing with no direct ROI if you're looking at it from a business standpoint. So you have to have clinicians that come in that are good teachers, not just great athletes. Some athletes are freaking great athletically, competitively, but they're not good teachers, right? So that's why I love seeing people who have a following on the YouTube and the internet already, who are good technicians, who have had some competition training. So I see what they're capable of doing. I can reach out to them and say, hey, this is what's going to make sense for me. And usually to do a seminar at my gym, it's a flat fee plus split, right? And the flat fee's lower because majority of the time, I want to make some money on this too. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not in a place where it's just like, oh, I need champions walking through to associate myself. Oh, it's a marketing expense. I'm not really in that place anymore with my gym. Also, like I said before, my guys aren't like this, like wide-eyed, like, oh my God, it's this champion from the YouTube, and they're not really like that because they already interact with me all the time. Not to sound like an arrogant prick. You know what I mean? Most of the guys who come through my gym have seen me at some point through the internet or this or following me. So now, they get to work out with me. There's really not much need for me to prove my status in the community by bringing other guys in, if that makes any sense, But with that being said, some gyms have that need. Some gyms, oh, I just loved it so much. I had to start a gym. I don't really have a competitive background. I really want to be in the know of the stuff that's going on current in the international circuit. I need to bring someone in to teach us. And there are teachers who are humble enough to say, you know what? I've never been on the international circuit. I just want to learn too. And I've had guys who say to me when they hosted me for a seminar, this seminar, Shintaro, mostly for me. Mostly for me. So I can learn from you face to face, be your friend, get your ideas. And then it's a bonus that my students get to learn alongside me. And I was like, wow, that's a very interesting way to put it. You're awesome. But so there's many different reasons to be able to do seminars. I think it's important to first know your people, know why you want to do the seminars, and then build around that. And then if you have a direct idea of what you're willing to spend for who, now all of a sudden you can have a very direct conversation with a clinician. With a clinician, say, hey, And of course, I've hosted Jimmy Pedro at my gym, and that was pretty cool because he brought his Olympic medals, and it's, oh my God, and he was my coach, and so it's like there's a little bit more of a reason to do something like that. Travis Stevens came to my gym, because we're also friends, right? So it's like it's a chance for me to get my friend paid, and then he comes in and we get the bullshit for a little bit, right? So that's kind of a cool reason to do that. But then I've also had seminarians or clinicians who aren't as well known competitively, but they were just great teachers. I even one time had my best friend from college. He was a great wrestler. He took fourth at World Team Trials, which isn't like a huge accomplishment. I mean, it is huge for the U.S., but it's not like an Olympic medal. It's not like you know what I mean, Jimmy Pedro or Travis, like the accolades like that. But I know him personally very well, and he's very, very, very good at teaching takedowns. Just very, very good. And he could teach a slew of takedowns in a very short amount of time, and people can pick and choose which takedowns that they want to add to their game. So I really like that method. And then he taught like a gut wrench that may or may not be useful in judo. Because he did a little bit of judo, he was able to like kind of make that connection. It was very different, very refreshing for a lot of my guys. I just recently did a leg lock seminar at my gym. We're a judo gym. We do 95% of the time we do gi. But Rene Souza, who's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy who specializes in leg locks and stuff and the buggy choke, I got him in. He's also my friend. We train a lot together. We, chit-chat and send each other reels and things like this. But that's so far from like what we normally do. But it was very refreshing. And for something like that, because he's very good, and, we have this conversation, we have this back and forth thing. It's like, hey, man, can I give you a smaller flat fee and then split the difference? Whatever comes in extra, we'll split that. He's like, cool, I'm okay with whatever. You know what I mean? So that's the way I'm starting to think of seminars little by little. And you got to look at the entire calendar of seminars, sort of like a portfolio, I'll give you another example. Fabio Basile, Olympic champion from Italy, right? Someone reached out to me and said, hey, you want to host them? I was like, that could be a marketing thing. You know what I mean? Like, I won't make a profit on it probably, but it'll be good to have an Olympic champion there who's also a red and white belt, mind you, who's young. He's one of the best in the world. He's one of the most famous guys, and now he could come in and we could make some YouTube content together. You know, I could also provide value for him because I have sort of a platform with a lot of reach. But I'm not going to make money on that. And if he quotes me at, let's just say, $5,000 for the session, I'll probably lose money on that because my gym doesn't have that many students. You know, our gym is probably split 50-50 kids and adults. Maybe he doesn't even want to do kids, you know, and I don't really want the kids learning like the Kataguma stuff that he's doing because it's very dangerous. They're going to hurt the other kids. So it'll mostly be for my adults, which is pulling from a very small group. And yes, I could advertise outside to the other dojos, but you know, who has time for that? You know, maybe I'll ask Hudson Judo to send it out on the mailing list. But then there's also a capacity issue too because we're in Manhattan, you know? But even if I were to take a loss on that, it will offset it. It will be offset by the other seminars that are coming by. And I've been doing sort of no-gi workshops in my gym, free to my members, you know, charging the outside members. So it's like, that's also like a seminar, you know? So we're trying to do once a month open mat, once a month some kind of event, always on Friday at 6:30. So there's no confusion, right? And that's kind of the way I'm kind of approaching seminars, open mats, events. It's good to kind of mix things up. And when you have people who are sort of getting into a funk, a little bit of a rut, you know, I missed 2 weeks now. It's a good reason for me to like reach out and then say, hey, come back, you know, come by. We have this guy coming in. You have guys who also are in certain financial positions guys that they cannot afford financial positions, had a baby, they cannot afford it. They're just kind of not in the game right now because they're just kind of not in the game right now because they don't want to commit to for whatever reason, you know, weekly membership where they're coming in every day. You know, weekly membership. Once you have an open mat once a month, you know, once you have an open mat once a month, hey dude, we're doing an open mat. You can always reach out to that guy and say, hey dude, we're doing an open mat and bullshit with us. Open mat, dude, it's free. Could just come by and bullshit with us, right? And it's kind of a nice tool for retention, you know. I'll give you another one. We got Nick Newell coming in. He's the one-armed MMA fighter. He fought Justin Gaethje. You can look him up. Nick Newell. He's a friend of mine. We wrestled at the same time in the same conference, right? So like we, you know, it's funny because like we became friends like much later, like pretty recently, maybe like the last 2 years. But like I sort of always knew of him, and so like we've crossed paths so many times. And now that we're friends, I was like, yo, did you ever wrestle at the Storm? He's like, yeah, I was there, Ithaca, you know, 2005, 2006. And he wrestled 165 and I wrestled 184. So we must have been in the same gym multiple times. You know, how cool is that? You know? But he's an MMA fighter. He wrestled. He did BJJ, mostly no-gi, but he's an MMA fighter with one arm. Super cool dude. And now I'm going to do like a seminar for my guys. Like, all right, you know, street fighting stuff. Everyone has a little bit of wrestling. Everyone has a little bit of judo. Everyone has good groundwork in my gym. All right. Not that these guys are like superstar strikers. That's probably the one thing that is more lacking than anything in my gym. But Nick is going to say, okay, how to do like a grappling-based fighting style. You know? And that'll be very, very exciting. And it'll be very refreshing for a lot of these guys to meet somebody who's my friend, and something a little bit different on a Friday night, something to look forward to. And that's sort of the way that I'm trying to approach these events and seminars now. So if you're listening and you're part of a gym, you have influence over the instructor, you should have these open conversations. It's not a one-off event, do I make money or not? You have to look at it as a portfolio of events that will help you grow the gym or not grow the gym. This guy's expensive. We probably lose a little bit of money on it, but it's a marketing expense. This guy is very, very good at teaching. He doesn't have a competitive record, and his fee is very low. His flat fee is like $500. We should get that person in the gym trying to make a little bit of money, you know, develop a relationship with them, see if they could come in over and over, right? Because there's sort of a sweet spot price, and there's many different ways to structure this stuff. And if you talk to your people, your staff, your clinician, the person doing the seminar, and then there can be sort of a meeting of the minds where it's like, oh, maybe this person's just starting off in the seminar space. They're completely happy with a $300 for one class kind of a thing, or even like a $500 for one class kind of a thing. I've heard guys who reached out to me, he's like, what do you charge for a private lesson? I was like, $300. Okay, will you come and do a private lesson for me? I was like, if I have to travel to your gym and it's local, it's $500. And they're like, okay, can you do it? How many people can I have in the room for the private lesson? You know, I'm like, what are you getting at? He's like, can I pay for that private lesson and have 20 guys watch? I'm like, that's more of a seminar, but you know what? Sure, right? I've said yes, to that request. I won't again, because, but like sometimes like you just kind of nail that sweet spot. It's like, all right, it's a 1 hour private lesson. I'm going to be there. It's $500. I'm not shaking everyone's hand, taking pictures. It's a private lesson. I'm in and out because it takes time for me to go there, come back. I'm burning an evening having dinner with my kid, right? This is what it's going to cost. Usually it's for seminar. And so now I've since then learned to cap the number of people in the private. But these are the kind of things that I'm thinking about when I'm kind of thinking about seminars, this, that, kind of digressing a little bit. But knowing yourself, knowing your gym, knowing your demographic, knowing the clinician, talking, and meeting that sweet spot where everyone's happy, that's the thing, So thank you very much for sponsoring us. By the way, Jason, Levon, and Joe, JudoTV.com, best IJF streaming platform ever, discount code Shintaro. HigashiBrand.com also, we have gi pants with pockets. We got gis now. All that stuff. Thank you everyone for always listening. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you get up-to-date new episodes coming in and out. On YouTube, please leave a comment. I do read the comments. I'm making more of an effort to sort of be a little bit more connected to the community. I do read the comments, so please leave a comment in the comment section. Suggestions are great. Yeah, these comments, sometimes they're hilarious, Yesterday, I put up 10 ways to do Tomonage. This guy, just the first comment that rolled in was like, oh, great, blah, blah. And then the third one was just boring, period. And then someone came to my defense. They were like, dude, he's not making this for entertainment. He's making this for information, and I don't know. It was just kind of funny how that was. But yeah, leave it in the comments. I do read them little by little. I think as my time frees up, I think I will try to respond. But a great way to get in contact with me is through the Patreon. There's a Discord that is monitored by Peter, and he will answer all your questions. What did you eat? What are you wearing? Those kind of things. Thank you very much again, and see you guys on the next episode.